Welcome to another edition of Steppin' Outdoors. Today's show is a segment packed with wildlife footage. You'll see everything from wild turkeys to bull elk to mule deer and even the elusive badger. So be sure and stay tuned to Wildlife of the White Mountains. Here's wildlife viewing in the winter. Winter is a great time to look for wildlife here in the White Mountains. We have a variety of animals you can see during the cold winter months. Everything from deer to elk to migrating waterfowl. We have a large population of ducks that are full-time residents, like this male mallard. We also have cinnamon teals, buffleheads, American widgeons, and pintail ducks. And keep an eye out in the dead snag trees or in the air for snowbirds. And I don't mean the human kind. I mean raptors, such as the bald eagle. The winter months here in the White Mountains are the best time to look for animal tracks. Like these raccoon tracks I found. It's fun to go hiking around in the snow, as it doesn't take long to find an animal track. Here's a rabbit track. It went this way, and then jumped into that brush. Those bushes are a good place for a rabbit to hide away from predators. Oh, and who doesn't love to watch a herd of elk on a crisp winter morning? Or a mule deer buck and doe. And yes, we even have our own javelina up here in the White Mountains. These javelina came visiting my cabin one evening. Wildlife viewing in the springtime. Spring can be a wet month. After the snow begins to melt, it fills our creeks and lakes here in the White Mountains, and it's a great time to get outdoors and see Mother Nature come alive. The mule deer come out and begin to feed on the bountiful grass shoots and vegetation. Spring is when the flowers begin to bloom, and Mother Nature shows us her array of color. This is a Mexican spotted owl. Mexican spotted owls are strictly nocturnal and feed on small mammals, birds, rodents, lizards, insects, and occasionally bats. The spotted owl hunts by perching and diving. The owl will spend minutes, even hours, perched on a branch, waiting for prey to venture near. When prey is spotted, the owl swoops down and grabs the prey with its talons. Watch this adult owl swoop down and grab a mouse. It's really cool. Spring weather can change in an instant. So you might start out in the morning wearing 3 layers of clothing to stay warm, and by midday, you shed them all to wear a t-shirt and jeans. One of my favorite things to do in the spring is to hunt wild turkeys. In the spring, the resident bald eagle pairs are nesting and feeding their young. And oh my golly, it's always rare to see a badger. I've only seen 2 badgers in my lifetime, and I spend close to 300 days out of the year hiking in the woods. After a cold, dark winter, it feels wonderful to get outdoors, take a hike, feel a little sun on your face. In the springtime, there's something for everyone to see and do. After the passing of spring, we dive right into the warmest temperatures of the season, where the sight of a monsoon cloud forming in the distance in the afternoon tells us that rain is on the way, and after the storm, everything feels clean again and the smell of rain lingers in the air. Now you know it's summertime. And summertime is a great time to view wildlife. You just have to be outdoors when the wildlife are out and about. In the summer, the animals come out in the early mornings to beat the heat and head back up to the mountains to find a shady spot to lay down for the rest of the afternoon until about dusk. Then the wildlife, like this doe, comes out again and forages and starts her routine all over again from the night before. And here's a young buck. And another buck, hiding behind some trees. And there's another surprise waiting for us. Another buck. Well, I didn't have to go too far before I ran into this fella. Looks like he'd just come from a tank or a watering hole, because I could see water dripping off of his mouth. And he certainly knew I was there, but he couldn't smell me and he couldn't see me. And I think it was kind of driving him crazy. He just couldn't see me, but he knew there was something there. So he'd leave and then he'd come back, and he just kept trying to find out what I was. Here he is, he came back a third time. Still couldn't quite grasp what I was or where I was exactly. He was awesome to watch. And here's an old bull elk. He's been around for a while. You can tell he's old as the tines on his antlers are receding. After 11 or 12 years of age, antlers decline in quality and become smaller. Some old bulls have been observed with only spike antlers. Antler size and configuration is determined mainly by heredity and available nutrition, as well as age. And this is a bull elk in his prime. He's pushing the cows, and the rest of the younger bulls are hoping to challenge him for his harem of cows. And here's a couple of bighorn sheep. Did you know that female bighorn sheep are called ewes? And that they grow horns too. Their horns are smaller and shorter than the rams and never exceed half a curl. Which brings us to one of my favorite wild animals of the White Mountains, the black bear. I found these tracks along a riverbank. These tracks tell me there's a good-sized bear around. But the tracks weren't from this young black bear. He's too little to have left those big tracks. With the ending of summer brings shorter days and cooler temperatures, along with the changing colors of the leaves. The timing of color change are primarily regulated by the calendar, that is, the increasing length of night. As days grow shorter and nights grow longer and cooler, the biochemical processes in the leaf begin to paint the landscape with nature's autumn palette of reds, oranges, golds, and browns. When leaf colors change, we know fall is here. Fall is the time for slumber for most animals. It is time to start storing up fat to make it through the cold, dark winter. Wildlife began feasting on acorns. October is when acorns ripen and fall from the trees, at times almost covering the forest floor. Most people know that a tiny acorn can eventually become a huge oak tree, but fewer individuals understand how these oak seeds can affect wildlife populations. A great number of animals depend on acorns as a food source. For some, their reproductive success is closely linked to the abundance of acorns. If an animal eats well, they are more likely to reproduce well, but this could ultimately lead to the future reduction in the number of oak trees. With a constant high number of browsing animals in the system, there would be fewer acorns left for reseeding the forest. However, oaks have managed to survive by not producing a constant number of acorns each year. During years of low acorn production, dependent animals adjust their numbers lower to match the food source. If followed by a year of heavy acorn production, there will be a lot of food for the remaining wildlife, plus plenty for reseeding the forest. It should be mentioned that large predators are also a regulating factor of plant-consuming animals, and complex relationships among all native plants and animals have been worked out over evolutionary time. The most numerous, widespread, and popular of Arizona's big game animals are deer. The state has two distinct species, the mule deer and the white-tailed deer. The most abundant deer in Arizona is the Rocky Mountain mule deer. Mule deer are not limited to any one type of terrain, being found from sparse, low deserts to high forested mountains. Generally, they prefer the more rugged country. The mule deer is the larger of Arizona's deer. Adult bucks may weigh into excess of 200 pounds and stand up to 42 inches at the shoulder. Does average 125 pounds. After a gestation period of about 190 days, the does give birth to spotted fawns, often twins. Fawns are dropped about midsummer. At higher elevations, the fawns are born early after the last spring storms to allow the young to grow large enough to withstand the winter storms. Do you hear that sound? It's a cow elk making a mew sound. And that's a bull elk bugling. I can tell you there is no greater sound in the woods than to hear a bull elk bugle. It still brings chills to my spine each and every time I hear it. Check out this bull and how close he comes to me. Right now, he's only a foot away from me. And I'll never forget this moment when I saw these bulls fighting it out. Whatever your favorite season is, whether it be winter, spring, summer, or fall, Mother Nature has something to offer us all. And it's as easy as walking out your back door. Whether you enjoy biking, camping, hunting, birding, fishing, or hiking, the outdoors is waiting for you to explore.